Welcome to Midpoint Conversation, where we sit down with public figures and opinion makers shaping Sri Lanka's national dialogue. Today we are joined Mr. Harsha Gunasena, a senior chartered accountant by profession and also a well-known columnist and a social analyst. His newly published book, My View, Alternate Thinking, brings together many of his thought-provoking newspaper columns, which have consistently explored Sri Lanka's democracy, governance and justice, themes that remain central to our public life. In this conversation, we'll explore Harsha's ideas about where Sri Lanka stands today and what has gone wrong and how we might chart a new path forward. Mr. Harsha, thank you for joining us today. And congratulations for your new book. To begin the conversation, I would like to ask the background of this book, because Mr. Harsha Gunasena is a chartered accountant by profession, a person who trained to deal with normally systems, numbers and accountability. But his social and public voice has deeply focused on social and political issues in Sri Lanka. So, Mr. Harsha, what pushed you to navigate your social and public responsibility towards this?
Thank you, Gayatri, for inviting me for this forum. Although I was trained to be a chartered accountant from my younger days, I was interested in the political affairs, economic affairs, culture, foreign policy, Buddhism and various subjects. Therefore, a decade back, I think somewhere in 2010 or so, I have started writing to newspaper article, mainly in Sinhala. Firstly, that area, in that period, I was writing against the racism which was prevailed at that time. And later, I was switched on to writing to English newspapers, firstly to Daily FT and later to Colombo Telegraph. Now, all these articles I have written to Daily FT and Colombo Telegraph, comprising of 170 articles, were published in this book. I have not only the justice, political affairs. I have also written extensively about Buddhism and how it applies to Sri Lankan society and also Sri Lankan culture. And I think it's a wide range of topics I have covered in this book.
In many of your columns, you have suggested that Sri Lanka's governance challenges are not only political, but also cultural and institutional. From your perspective, what is the single most urgent reform our country needs to create an accountable and effective government? Maybe you have not only single answer, maybe you have many answers you can.
Yeah. Well, now Sri Lanka is having a lot of acts, parliamentary acts, and interestingly we have observed that those very acts introduced to safeguard the citizens are using against the citizens. ICCPR Act is one such example. Say even Prevention of Terrorism Act was used to harass the citizens of the country. So what we lack is the rule of law. We have an inherent culture, collectivist culture in Sri Lanka. In comparison to individualistic culture prevailed in the Western world, say US, Northern Nordic countries, Northern Europe especially, Australia, New Zealand type of countries, they have individualistic culture. So in Sri Lanka, we have a collectivist culture. Therefore, our intention is not to follow the rule of law. Say if you go to a government institution to get a thing done, first thing what we do is we find out whether there's a known person to us in that institution. But technically, we should be able to go without any knowing persons. We should be able to get things done, but that is not happening. So my view, you ask the single most thing. My view, this rule of law and development comes with the economic prosperity. So if you take the Western world, they also were like that, like us, say about a couple of centuries back. and they developed with the economic prosperity. Now in Sri Lanka, we have not we don't have the developed capitalist system in Sri Lanka. So we are trying to go to a socialist system with that. So with the improved capitalist system in full force, if we can develop the country and bring the economic prosperity, then I believe the rule of law, governance, all these things will come to effect.
You often write that democracy is much more than casting a vote every few years. What steps could help to Sri Lanka to move towards a more participatory democracy?
Democracy in Sri Lanka was introduced to us in 1931 with the universal franchise. So, unlike the Western world, we have not fought and got the democracy. It was granted to us. So, the democratic systems in Sri Lanka, although we are very used to that, say for instance, if any person tries to overstay in power, I don't think, unlike in any other countries, in Sri Lanka it is possible. There are sayings like that, but it is not possible, I believe. But Sri Lankan democracy behaves in accordance with the Sri Lankan culture, I believe, unlike in the Western countries. The democracy in Western countries, by its definition, democracy is not the tyranny of the majority. It's rule of the majority, but majority should be able to safeguard the interest of the minorities as well. So that's how the democracy goes on. Now, in our type of countries, say South Asian countries, for instance, Bangladesh, you can have examples. When the ruling party is very powerful, they tend to suppress the minorities. When the ruling party is weak, minorities try to take the upper hand and try to topple the government. So this is going one extreme to the other extreme. So in Western type of countries, this type of, although the demonstrations are there, toppling of government type of thing is not happening. So once again, the Sri Lankan people, I can't recommend, okay, you have to take these steps. Of course, we need to have strong institutions. The public should be aware that of their rights, and they are already aware of this. And we have acts like the Right to Information Act. So people, I don't think that they are using this act very much. Say in India, they have used it very much. So they have to use this act. The people should be aware of their democratic rights. Not only demonstrations, in institutional level, they have to exercise. People should exercise their democratic rights, and then by and by, we should have that status.
In your essays, you have spoken about the erosion of the faith in justice system. What changes, institutional or social, are needed to rebuild the trust and make sure that justice is equal for all?
Once again, regarding the justice, once again the problem is that our lack of rule of law and favorations type of culture. So immediately we should have more courts, so that there are long delays of justice. In order to arrest that, we should have more courts, more people, and also if you take the law enforcement authorities and also the general public, they think that by the arresting a person, that is first thing is to arrest a person, and since the justice system is delayed, people think that punishment is the immediate arrest and remand the person. So that although in the law the exception is to remand the person, and the normal course of action is give the bail. that is not happening. So everybody, including the people, think that those suspects should be remanded, and that type of thinking is not correct, and we should change all these things. And also, I think the Attorney General's department, if you consider, we should, as the NPP government, they have promised in their election manifesto to have a separate institution for the prosecution, because Attorney General is if you say simply, he is the lawyer of the president, according to the Constitution of Sri Lanka. So we should have a separate institution for the prosecution and should be independent of the Attorney General. And as I previously mentioned, all these developments in the upper floor coming with the economic prosperity. So we should focus on economic prosperity, and these things will come step by step.
You have written that corruption in Sri Lanka isn't just an economic issue, it's a moral and civic one. Why do you think corruption has become so deeply embedded in our system, and what realistic steps could start reversing that trend?
Yeah. First thing, most people do not focus on this area. If you take that, who is corrupted? Basically, the government servants are corrupt. That is the issue now. Now, according to the current Anti-Corruption Act, it was extended to the public sector as well. That's good. Now, generally in Sri Lanka, public servants are paid less. Government can't pay higher salaries also, because already there are a lot of public servants, more than the requirement. And at present, government can't retrench them also, because there won't be any sufficient jobs in the market. So somehow, within a few years even, government should reorganize this government sector. I don't think that the present government is doing that. Reorganize, restructure the present government sector, give a VRS to these people, and retrench them, and safeguard their well-being also by giving a good VRS. And remaining public servants should be paid well. Their salaries should be increased. So that is the prerequisite to curb corruption. Because I know that a lot of public servants, they were forced to engage in these corrupt activities because of their salaries are low. And the other thing is, one more thing is, government can't afford to increase the salaries, so what they do is they give different bribes to people, like car permits to the professionals, senior government servants and all. Instead of doing this type of activities, they should be paid a decent salary. Say, in 1950s, I believe, government servant in comparison to the private sector got a decent salary. So first of all, we have to have a good, the content, happy public service, and then introduce KPIs to them, and if they are not working, you have to take action against them and demote them or even removing them. And presently, I know that a lot of public servants, other than corruption, they are not giving much effort to their work. And secondly, the Anti-Corruption Act was introduced, and the corruption at the level of senior ministers, from the top of the government should give should take the initiative and take severe actions against those people who are involved in corrupt activities. Say, if you take Singapore, I can remember at the very beginning when they started the country in 1965 and so on. There were ministers. One minister was charged with corruption, and Lee Kuan Yew has not given any concession. Finally, the minister had to commit suicide. So we have to take tough actions against who are corrupt.
As my last question, I would like to ask, if you look 10 years ahead, what kind of governance culture would you like to see in Sri Lanka? And despite the challenges you describe, what still give you hope that such change is possible?
In 10 years, most probably the same culture would prevail. And these changes, we cannot do overnight changes. So it is deeply linked with the culture and also the intentions of the rulers. The changing will take some time. And as I told you, we will move forward little by little. And I don't think that as most of the general public thinks, we can have overnight results. If you take the past 76 years, we have moved forward, although not at a faster speed. We have moved forward well and achieving a lot of gains. Say, if you take the 76 years back, the Sri Lankan status, living standard of the people, we have our country has developed a lot in comparison to the levels of those days. But although we are well behind of some other Asian countries, we have developed well to a great extent. So in the not only the economic side, but also the social, the justice system, and corruption-free society, this type of thing, we will achieve the objectives gradually, not overnight.
Mr. Harsha, thank you for sharing your valuable insights with us. Before we wrap up, what do you hope readers will take away from your book? Especially you mentioned that your book consists with historical and cultural studies, not just as a citizen, but as a participant in Sri Lanka's democratic journey. What do you think readers will take away from your book?
Name of my book is My View Alternate Thinking. That was the name of my column in Daily FT newspaper. The title, Alternate Thinking, was suggested by me. The reason is when I was writing the articles, I found that my view is different to the view of the majority of Sri Lanka. Dr. W. Vijayawardena, who has written the preface of to this book, says that it's a third eye. So the people should not follow the status quo. And if I quote the Buddha in his Kalama Sutta, he says, don't believe what your teacher says, whatever in the books, what your script says and all that. If it is acceptable to you, you believe it, you accept it, that's it. So in any type of social ideology is prevailing, people should be able to criticize those views and get the best out of it. So in this book, since all my articles are in that manner, most of the articles I have criticized the existing system. So people of this country should learn how to evaluate the things critically and get what is the best for us. And in Sri Lanka, I believe the voters, ultimately everybody says that, okay, they pass the blame to the politicians. But my view is ultimately the voters are responsible because sovereignty is with us. And so that with this type of critical thinking, the critically evaluating the points, you should be able to upgrade the levels and upgrade our democracy and upgrade our country in time to come.
So, my view, alternate thinking. Mr. Harsha Gunasena's newly published book is available right now. So, Mr. Harsha, we would like to know how we can purchase this book or where we can find this book.
This is available in Vijayapa bookshops and also Sarasavi bookshops in their branches, and also grantha.lk online. It is available, and there it may be available in some other bookshops also. And if you want to buy the book, if you contact me, I also can give it to you. My number is 077 329 5002.
We encourage our viewers to read it for a critical and alternate look at Sri Lanka's cultural, political and social landscape. Mr. Harsha Gunasena, thank you very much once again for joining us Midpoint Conversation. And to our viewers, thank you for watching. If you are value open, a critical dialogue on issues that shape our future, please like, share and subscribe. See you next time at Midpoint Conversation.